Good morning, students. Wishing you all a very happy Raksha Bandhan. I'm sure everybody yesterday would have had great fun with your family, with your siblings. And after that, I'm sure the bond that you share with your brothers and sisters would have grown much deeper, much stronger. So let us now strengthen our bond with the subject of GST and deepen our ties with the concept of place of supply. Let me just revise for everybody's benefit. So, we have been discussing this in the previous class that GST is brought as a destination based consumption tax. I'll say it has been brought, it has been designed, and it has also been marketed. However, when we look deeper into the act, and as we discussed and rightly pointed out by Swaminathan and Yogesh, that nowhere in the act they have used this term. So we tried to delve deeper into the reasons and the consequences, and we identified that the reason is intentional because the concept of destination is not the physical destination. The concept of consumption may at times be not practically identifiable, and we have already discussed few real life case scenarios, and hence in order to have a law which never fails, because if you define something, if you make a provision which is practically impossible to identify, then the law would fail. So in order to avoid that, and most important thing, in order to ensure that, especially in case of services, a registered recipient should get a credit. Though, as we proceed, you'll find that in some cases it is not happening, but at least that there was an intention that a registered recipient should get a credit, and hence the law has been so structured. This entire set of provisions of place of supply is drafted, is, I'll say, placed in the IGST Act. Now, this is also interesting. Did anybody think on this point? When we look at all the other provisions find place in the CGST, SGST Act, and IGST Act through its section 20 says that all the provisions of CGST Act relating to supply, relating to registration, relating to ITC, relating to assessment, relating to levy of interest penalty, everything will apply to IGST Act mutatis mutandis. It means the provisions, the entire levy, procedure, recovery, nothing is provided in the IGST Act. Time of supply, everything is in the CGST, SGST Act. But this particular thing, which is equally important to determine the levy, the nature of tax, has been put in IGST Act. Why is it not put in the CGST Act? Has anybody thought on this? So today's discussion again will start with a very interesting question for which we need to have some uh, thinking, brainstorming. So like how the previous class we started with the question that why there is no word destination, and we concluded that was for all practical reasons. So to make the law effective, we have kept this as a deeming fiction, and then we proceeded with determining the various provisions. So now I will ask you, can anybody tell me why this part, place of supply, is not put in the CGST Act? Otherwise, all other provisions, time of supply, value of supply, everything relating to supply is in CGST Act. And obviously, when I say CGST, parallel in SGST Act. Why not place of supply provisions? Anybody? See, there is a lot to learn from the placing of a particular provision. In fact, the sequencing of a particular provision. Similarly, here, why not in that act and only in this act? Chalo, I want people speaking.
This may be because, like, as we have seen in case of services, especially the place of supply jumps from receiver location to supplier location to consumption to beneficiary. So, in case of CGST, it would have been very difficult to confine the definition into this like CGST Act, because as it deals with intra-state only.
Acha, so you mean to say that because CGST, SGST are confined to intrastate transactions, correct? Hence, and as you said, that place of supply may go to any state. So they thought it better not to define it in CGST, SGST Act, correct?
I mean, there would have been a lot of difficulty in placing it in especially in CGST Act,
So see,
because
when
there
we say
the
CGST, it is equally applicable to S because CNS are parallel, right?
yes, they are.
So whether the difficulty would be placing it in the SGST Act mainly or in the CGST Act.
I think SGST Act would be more difficult for that.
Okay, because one SGST Act, let us say of Maharashtra, is providing provisions for SGST Act of Karnataka. This is what you mean to say, right?
Now there the intention of like the space is would always be like to bring that into intra-state. However, in case of service, it's very dynamic everywhere. There are 5-6 possibilities where, especially that in the, where it can like so maybe the focus of lawmakers would have shifted from uh, checking the true nature of the place
Hmm.
of supply rather than to fitting into the act.
Okay, so you mean to say that SGST, if it would have been there, then maybe the every state would have tried to keep the transaction within their state. Correct,
Yes,
na?
sir, time to time.
Okay, great, great. Yes, anybody else? Why not CNS and why only IGST while designing its place of supply?
Import and exports, they have to place for the import and exports also. Imports and exports are interstate supplies, IGST. So it is better to define in all the cases at one place rather than having some in CGST Act and some in IGST Act.
So, do you mean to say that CGST and SGST has no provisions for import and exports?
Generally, import and exports are for only interstate supplies, right, sir?
Agreed, 100% agreed that what IGST Act in Section 8 has already mentioned that wherever it is going to be import, it shall always be deemed to be an interstate supply.
Interstate supply.
Yes, yes, agreed. So you mean to say, chalo theek hai, taken that for international transactions, anyways, CNS will not be applicable. Good. So two very relevant inputs. That one, what Pitambar said, two, what Yogesh said. Third, I will add one more input to this. That input is constitution. We all know that when GST was brought in, certain constitutional amendments were required and hence so made. In those constitutional amendment, you will interestingly find that when it came to the power to levy tax, the power has to be given now for the first time in the history of taxation of independent India. First time, the power had to be given jointly to both center and state. Only then CGST SGST, IGST, everything could have been brought in. So to bring GST law in the shape what we are looking at today, they had to give parallel powers to both. However, when you read the constitutional amendments, you will find that they specifically mentioned that only in case of intrastate transactions, the power will be parallel. In case of interstate transaction, the power as per constitution and hence continued in the GST laws will be restricted only to parliament. Parliament means center. And further, now coming to this specific point, constitutional amendment says that for determining what will be place of supply, the powers will be only with the parliament. That is, the parliament is given the sole power to determine what would be place of supply. So this is specifically given in the constitution also. And yes, rightly pointed out ki why it would have been given in the constitution that the powers would be only with parliament, that is only with center. Obviously, one, what Pitambar said that otherwise every state would have tried to bring it in their state and they would have tried to make every transaction intrastate so that they get the revenue. And as also rightly pointed out by Yogesh that maybe for international transactions, it may not be possible to make a provision in the S and C laws. So yes, that is the main reasons, and the origin of this comes from the constitutional amendment where it says that only parliament has the power to determine the rules relating to where would be the place of supply. Great. Now another part in revision, that in place of supply we have four provisions all from the IGST Act. Section 10, 11, place of supply of goods. 11, 12, 12, 13, place of supply of service. Within 10, 11, 10 deals with domestic transaction where section 10 says other than for import export. 11 defines place of supply for transactions of import export of goods. 11 says place of supply of service where neither the location of recipient nor the location of supplier is outside. And 13 deals with the scenario where at least one of the location is outside India. So interestingly, they have not used the word import export of service like how it is used in section 10 and 11. 12 and 13 has not used this word. 12 and 13 have very thoughtfully avoided the words import export of service. Why? We discussed that also in the previous class when we dealt with the definitions of import and export. That simply, let us say, supplier outside, recipient inside will not make it import. It has to further satisfy one more test of place of supply should be India. Then only the transaction will be called as import export. In other words, what we understand from this differentiation that like in case of goods, the treatment in case of service is not the same. In case of goods, if the transaction is international, it will be import export only. However, international means where one person is outside and the other person is inside, it will be by default import export of goods only. However, in case of services, that is not the case always. Even if supplier is outside, recipient is inside, or the other case, recipient outside, supplier inside, that is import or export of service, what we normally believe it is, need not be the case. Even if one of the parties is outside and the other is inside, the transaction may not become import export of service because for getting qualified as import export of service, you have additional requirements to be fulfilled. And that is why section 12 and 13, when they are referring to place of supply provisions, they are not using the terms import of service or export of service. So 12 is not saying other than for import of service or export of service. Why? To determine import export of service, you have to first determine place of supply. Only when place of supply falls in India, then that transaction can be import of service. Only when place of supply falls outside India plus foreign exchange and other conditions, then only the transaction would be export of service. Hence, 12 and 13 simply says that where one person is outside, another person is inside, 12 will not apply, 13 will apply. 12 will apply only when both persons are inside. Interestingly, they have used the word location of both the persons. Then we discuss also in detail the definition of location of supplier of service, location of recipient of service, and again what we interestingly found that location of supplier of service or recipient of service, the definitions are more confined to your place of business. If registered, that place. Multiple registered, then you have to decide which place. If unregistered, but there is a business place which is called as fixed establishment, that place. And if no business place, then your residence usual is the location. So this is how the location of supplier, location of recipient is defined. Perfect. Now, this is all revision from my side. Anybody has any particular questions, any particular doubts, we'll first take up that and then we'll proceed with our provisions. So, anybody from students want to ask something? Anybody from students has any particular point to be understood, discussed? Please put it across. Yes, Ms. Chitra, Mr. Pitambar, Mr. Sanjay, Mr. Yogesh.
No, sir, it's fine.
It's fine. Okay. Others? Okay. So then let us proceed with the provisions, whatever we have discussed till now. So we were in the provisions of section 12, which deals with determining place of supply for domestic transactions. And we completed the first part, that is the residuary rule, which is mainly applicable to our chartered accountant services, and where we determined or where we concluded that the place of supply will be determined on the basis of how my recipient is. If my recipient is a registered person, by default, registered person's location will be the place of supply. Means you will not see physically where the services are going. You will not see who is consuming. It is simply the location of the registered person. I'll give you a very specific example of this. So as we saw, we were discussing in the previous class that our CA services, like let us say audits. Now it is interesting to note, I'll give you an example so that you'll understand the depth of this. I am chartered accountant practicing in Mumbai. You are a corporate having your registered office, having your, I'll say not registered, your head office. Registered means not from GST perspective, from a company law perspective, means your head office, your corporate office, which is located at Bangalore. Now, you have multiple branches across India. Some may be your depots, warehouses, some may be your manufacturing units. Now, you want stock audit to be done. You appoint me as the auditor for carrying out stock audits of your multiple branches. Let us say one is in Bhubaneswar, Orissa, one is in Srinagar, one is in Surat, Gujarat, and one is in Indore, Madhya Pradesh. Now, these are different branches located in different states. You hire me, you appoint me as the auditor for carrying out the physical stock audits, inventory audits. I visit to these places, my team goes there. Every place we stay for 3 to 7 days, depending upon the quantum of work, and I submit report to you. Now, interestingly, I may have not come for a single day to your registered office at Bangalore. Important. I never came there. All our communication was through mail. We connected through online platforms like Zoom or other Google Meet, etc. And I submitted the report. Now, interestingly, if you look at the transaction physically the services were carried out by me at your different locations situated in different states. But law has nothing to do with the physicality. I mentioned this in the previous class also. It simply says location of service, like as per what we are studying right now, subsection 2 of section 12, will be the location of registered person. And interestingly, what is important is that your each unit is also registered under GST, right? But when we saw in the definition of location of recipient and supplier both, that if you have multiple registered place of business, what will be the location? It will be the location which you define. So you define means now out of your multiple locations, since your head office has contracted with me for this service, then the location of head office, which in my example is Bangalore, will be my recipient. Let us say each of your branch, each of your these units, the Bhubaneswar unit, the Srinagar unit, the Surat unit, and the Indore unit had contracted with me for the same audit. In that particular case, my recipients would have been each of the units for their respective audits, and I would have raised four separate invoices. In that case, same as per the same provision, the place of supply would have been the respective units. However, as per my original example, since I was contacted and contracted with your head office, which is in Bangalore, the location of recipient will be now Bangalore and the place of supply will also be Bangalore. So what we infer from this, just have this common thought process in mind so that you'll appreciate some of the further entries also, that the ideology which the law is carrying is that they simply want the recipient to be the place of supply, at least as far as domestic transactions are concerned. When we'll go to foreign transactions, the scenario changes. But for domestic transactions, they want the recipient to be the place of supply. So, hence, if you see, even in the B part, where my recipient is unregistered, still they are saying if the address of the recipient exists in my records, they want that the location of this recipient only, who is now unregistered, should be the place of supply. So, wherever identification of recipient is possible, they want recipient's location only to be the place of supply. Now try to link it with goods transaction under section 10. You will find that similar logic flows over there also. If you remember in section 10 clause A and section 10, subsection 1 clause A and section 10 subsection 1 clause CA, one dealing with registered, one dealing with unregistered. In either case, the same answer was there. Where it is registered person, that is 10(1)(a), they said that it is the end term, it is the location where the delivery terminates, something like this. However, eventually it always meant the location of a recipient. Similarly, in case of 10(1)(ca), where the recipient is an unregistered person, they said that simply the address put on invoice will be the place of supply, and in that they further clarified entire address is also not required, simply putting the name of the state would be considered as address. So to this extent they have gone, and something similar you find over here. They say address on record exists. So where the address on record exists, it is always the recipient's location only. And where it is not there, like I said, cash sales, I'm not putting anybody's name now. In case of all shopkeeper sales, practically it is always cash sales. Cash sale does not mean you have paid by cash, you may have paid by online QR code scanning, etc. But the point is, cash sale means I don't know who the customer is. I don't even ask the name of the customer or their company name. Many times they don't even ask for invoice. They simply buy the goods and leave. So such supplies are falling in the category of B2C, where I don't know the person don't know the location, then the place of supply is my location, that is supplier's location. Same thing for goods, same thing for services. But in case of goods, that applied to a majority of transactions. In case of service, this logic applies to few transactions which are covered in subsection 2. What are covered in subsection 2? What are not covered in 3 to 14. Now, when we go from 3 to 14, you will find that this rule is slightly changing for certain set of transactions, because for those certain set of transactions, the place of supply is the physical place. So in case of services between subsection 3 to 14, you will find around 4 or 5 cases where the law makes the place of supply as the physical place of service. But other than these 4 5, in all other remaining provisions, they always have tried to apply this same rule, which is given in subsection 2, that the place of supply is the recipient's place. So this is what is the logic that you can derive from entire observation and also the parallel observation of section 10 and 12. Now we go to subsection 3, from where specific services starts. So subsection 3 has now the services which deals with services of immobile property. Now here the language will be important, and we'll parallelly, or I'll do one thing, I'll go to the detailed part of this so that we can have more detailed discussion and analysis. Now here this is section 12.3. Okay, who will read for me today? Swaminathan is not there. Anybody would take the lead to read for me today? Yes? Anybody from you?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Please, Yogesh. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. I will do. Yeah. Services in relation to an immovable property or lodging accommodation in a hotel, boat, vessel, etc. Section 12, subsection 3. Section 12, subsection 3 covers supplies of services which are directly in relation to an immovable property or by way of lodging accommodation in a hotel, etc. or a houseboat or vessel or accommodation in any immovable property for organizing social business functions, etc. Such services are classified in the following major categories. Category A. Services provided directly in relation to an immovable property, including those by architects, interior decorators, surveyors, engineers, and other related experts, estate agents. Category B. Services provided by way of grant of rights to use immovable property or for carrying out or coordination of construction work. Category C. Services provided by way of lodging accommodation by a hotel, inn, guest house, homestay, club, campsite, houseboat, vessel. Category D. Services provided by way of accommodation in an immovable property for organizing any marriage, reception, or matters related thereto. Official, social, cultural, religious, or business functions, including services provided in relation to such function at such property. Category E. Services ancillary to the above mentioned services.
Okay.
In all above
Okay, fine. Complete this.
In all above cases, location of the immovable property or the boat or the vessel or where such immovable property or the boat or the vessel is intended to be located is the place of supply.
Okay. So, in short, if I have to put it in one small sentence, the place of supply for services of immovable property is the location of immovable property itself. So now this subsection 3 is a shift from the general rule, the general logic which is flowing from section 10 and section 12, that we want the recipient's place to be the place of supply. That logic is slightly, I'll say, shifted, diluted here. Here they are saying the location of immovable property will be the place of supply. Great. Now here I have highlighted something. which is here also. So let me read it again from here. Now, what they are saying that they have covered these five categories of services. Now, in these five categories of services, interestingly, B onwards, B, C, D are very specific. The names of the services are given, but A is partially specific and E is very generic. Now, what does A says? Now, this part which I have highlighted is interesting to read. I believe if you use these two things in law, one when you say directly and the second you say in relation to, both have two opposite meanings. Please understand this. See, whenever, let us say the word directly would not have been there, and the sentence read like this: services provided in relation to immobile property. That would have meant something else. And if we ignore in relation and we just read services provided directly for immobile property, it would have meant something else. Now, interestingly, they have merged the two. So the question is what exactly they are trying to cover over here that we need to understand. So for this, let me first tell you what exactly the point is which I want to elaborate. See, when the word directly is used, it means there has to be a very specific connection with immobile property. Like, understand this, when you construct a building which is immobile property, there is a direct connect with that immobile property. If you are staying in the building, there is a direct connect with the immobile property. So when I say directly, it means what? It should be exactly, specifically, either the service should be performed on the immobile property, like the construction, the repairing, or the services should be consumed, enjoyed by applying the immobile property, like staying in that immobile property, like using the immobile property for some function. So, where either you are performing the service on the immobile property, construction, repairing, etc., or you are directly using the immobile property for enjoying the service, like staying in the immobile property, taking it on rent for a day. This is what is direct connection. Now we move a step ahead where it says in relation to. This phrase of in relation to makes anything very wider. Like, as chartered accountants, if I am doing something related to your immobile property, example valuation, that is something where directly is not happening. Why? Neither I'm doing anything on your immobile property, so I'm not doing on the immobile property something. Neither I'm using the immobile property. So directly these two things would be there. What is in relation to? In relation to means there is some distant or there is some very overstretched connection with the immobile property, but I am neither doing anything on the immobile property, neither I am directly consuming or enjoying the immobile property. But what I am doing on a piece of paper, I am simply doing some calculations for an immobile property. This would become the in relation to meaning. However, when they have combined the two, what it will mean? When they say directly, so obviously directly will cover those two cases which I mentioned. Either I'm doing something on the immobile property, or either I'm doing something where I'm enjoying the immobile property. That will be directly, so it is covered. But when they are saying directly in relation to, as I mentioned, had they only said in relation to, my services of valuation would have been covered. But when they are saying directly in relation to, means what they are trying to cover is only those services where, even though I'm not doing anything on the immobile property, even though I'm not enjoying the immobile property, but I am having a direct connection with the immobile property because I am doing something for the immobile property. Like, if you see the list, what they have tried to cover over here is first four things. The person is doing something specifically for that immobile property. May not be, he is not going and constructing it, but architects are designing or making the structure of that immobile property. Interior decorators are designing, doing the beautification of that. Surveyors will actually do the measurements and calculations of that piece of land where the immobile property is. And engineers and other related experts would be actually doing the calculations, workings of that immobile property. So this is what they want to basically cover, that there is no work which these persons are doing physically, either on the immobile property, neither they are physically enjoying the immobile property. They are not having any physical connection, but whatever is their work is having some direct connection with the immobile property. Like what they are doing is directly connected to immobile property, like designing it, beautifying it, measuring it. Now, interestingly, when they have covered estate agent services, I think, are a step more beyond physical connection. So there is no physical connection at all. Neither they are doing anything on the immobile property like the first four people, but still they are also covered in their list. So whenever you are buying any property or taking any property on rent and you involve some agent who is called as an commission agent in our day-to-day parlance, here they are calling them as estate agents. So where there is a middle person who helps you buy the property, who helps you take the property on rent, they have even covered that person's service. So point is what? If you see the other three, B, C, D, there you will find the meaning of what I'm trying to say, direct. Direct means either you are doing something on the property or you are enjoying the property itself. Like first is where it says service provided by way of grant of right to use immobile property. So you are going to physically use or you are going to physically construct. Similarly, in case of lodging, you are again going to physically use the property, enjoy the property. Similarly, again accommodation, you are going to physically occupy the property. So in B, C, D, there is a very direct physical connection with the property. In case of E, now again E is interesting. In E, they have widened the scope a lot. What they say, services ancillary to above. Now, the moment you use the word ancillary, we feel that ancillary has widened the scope. The answer is no. It has not widened. Why? Because when you read the above entries, A, B, C, D, there has to be some direct connect with the immobile property. And when they are saying services ancillary, it means services which have a one-to-one relation with the above services. So I'll give you example. For example, here the services of architect. In fact, if I have to say real estate agent, according to me, they need not write real estate agent because that would have fallen over here. But fine, they have covered it separately. Otherwise, real estate agent would have fallen over here. How? Because it would have been ancillary to this. What? Either accommodating or occupying. So when you want to accommodate in a property, for that you require a real estate agent who will help you connect to the seller. So this is where the ancillary word has a meaning. But they have already specifically covered real estate agent above. So then who will be covered here? That is what is an interesting point. So here, like you book nowadays, many of these through online apps. So these online app services can get covered over here. When you talk about these services like architects, interior decorator. So what is ancillary to an architect service? What is ancillary to interior decorator service? It is those services where architects have sublet their work to somebody else. So let us say in the whole designing, what the architect is doing of the immobile property, they require some other services directly relating to their service of designing. That is what they are outsourcing and getting it done from somebody else. So that will be covered. Similarly, interior decorator, for doing the beautification, they require some services of some, let us say, tiles wala, or of some plumbing wala, or of some POP wala. All that will get covered here. So that is what means by ancillary. Ancillary does not means anything which is very widely connected. That is not. It has to still be a directly connected ancillary service. So for immovable property, these are the provisions. Now, interesting is this point. If the immovable property boat vessel is located outside India, so example, I am having a guest house in London. You want to visit London for some professional work, because now you will be knowing that since last year, India is now having backend. India is now becoming the backend service provider, especially related to accounting and taxation for many of the foreign countries, companies, and for the many of the foreign countries professionals. So, like recently, there is a huge trend where CPAs from Australia, CPA USA, all these people are connecting to Indian CA firms, and whatever are their clients' work relating to accounting taxation, they are getting it done from us because they find our Indian work a lot cheaper, and also Indians they find as more committed towards work as compared to their local people. So now this trend is increasing. So let us say in context of this example, so you are traveling to London. Why? Because you want to have meetings with certain CPAs over there with whom you can connect and get work for your firm in India. So you are going there, going there, so you need to stay there for at least a month. You know that I am, and we both are from India. Practically, we are today in India, but let us say I have a property in London, and you know that I have a property in London. So you call me up saying, "Ki, sir, I am traveling there. I wish to hire your property for a month." I say, "No problem. Take that property and pay me $10,000 for that property's rent." So you agree. So you are making payment to me of that property's rent in dollars. Now, the question is whether this transaction will be export of service. The answer is no. Reason one, both of us are from India. If you remember, recall the definition of export. The supplier should be from India, but the recipient should be outside India. Here, supplier recipient both are India. First problem. Second problem is place of supply, because for export of service, the place of supply should fall outside India. Here, as per this proviso, which is put here in this yellow tag, wherever the immovable property is located outside India. So, in my case, in our example, the immovable property for which you have approached me is outside India. What will be the place of supply? The place of supply will be your location. Means in this transaction, the place of supply is not outside India. Even though you are going to go and stay in my property in London, the place of supply is not London. The place of supply will be your location. So interestingly, for this service, which appears to be an international transaction or a service outside India, the place of supply is within India. So this is something very interesting, that when you look at this, you find or you realize that how the law is designed. So here, even though physically you are occupying the premise which is outside India, but the place of supply is India. And logically so, why? Because the transactions is being entered by the parties within India. The flow of money will be within India. The flow of money is not happening between two countries. So this transaction, if you understand it from the government's perspective, no government will come to know that this has happened. Means at least the foreign government will never come to know. Why? Because there is no flow of money between two countries. So there, that foreign government, like in this case it is of UK, will have no idea as to any such commercial transaction has happened. It is simply that you travel to UK, over there you stayed in some premises, that's it. But you did not pay anything over there. There was no flow of money between UK to India. So in this particular case, the foreign government will never have any say in such transactions, and hence, thoughtfully, the lawmakers have kept the place of supply in India so that this transaction will have no connection with foreign government, right? So this is what is also clarified. It is important to note that this case should not be confused with a case where either the supplier or recipient is outside India. So we should not confuse with that, because here both of us are located in India only. Here only the property is located outside India, but both the supplier and the recipient are located in India. So for such transactions, the place of supply will be India only. Had the recipient being a person from outside India, the answer would have changed, because in that case we will go to section 13. But here, since both the parties are from India, we are still in section 12. So here they have summarized this particular provision. Now coming to next part in this. What is the next part? What if this immovable property, now keep the foreign part aside. Now again we come back to original transaction, that the immovable property is also in India. But what if the immovable property is located in more than one states or union territories? Now the question is how this is possible. So see, they have given example also. Sometime our property may extend to more than one location. For example, a railway line, a national highway, a bridge, or a river may originate in one state and end in the other state. Or a houseboat stay may transfers more than one state. So all these things are possible. So what is this scenario? The scenario is where the immovable property is located in more than one place. In such cases, what will be the place of supply? So let me take you example of this. You have hired me to lay down a railway line, or to construct a national highway, or to do construction of a bridge. And the railway line for which you have given me the work, that railway line is starting from Maharashtra and ending in MP, starting from Gujarat and ending in Rajasthan. Now, in such cases where the immovable property whose construction I am doing is now located in two states, in such a case, how will the place of supply be determined? Actually, there is no problem in determining place of supply, because we know place of supply is the location of immovable property. But the problem is, now the immovable property has its location in two states. Or like they gave example that I am staying in a houseboat and the houseboat is in motion. So it is traveling from one state's waters to another. So it is starting from Kerala and entering the other state, because the boat is moving. Now, in such cases, if my stay is in the houseboat, let us say for 4 days, 5 days, another best example of this could be your cruise. So cruise starts from Bombay and goes to Kerala, or goes to Goa, or goes to Andaman. In such cases, our place of supply as per the basic provision is the location of this, which is the cruise itself. But the problem is, since the cruise is moving, how will you determine place of supply? Because it is in two or three states. So in such cases, the answer is where the immovable property or boat is located in more than one state, the service is deemed to have been supplied in each of the states. So like if I'm laying the railway line, or I'm constructing the road or bridge, which is having two states involved, in such cases, I will have to proportionate the value of my service. And whatever is the proportionate value, now in case of railway line, highways, etc., it would be on the basis of length. So whatever is the total value, let us say I've got this project of for rupees 100 crores. Now, how much kilometers of work I am doing of Maharashtra state and how much kilometer of work I am doing of MP state, that will be the ratio for proportionating this 100 crore. And I will have two invoices, one invoice where the place of supply is Maharashtra, and one invoice where the place of supply is MP. And according to this particular ratio of whatever kilometers work I've done in Maharashtra, I'll take the value in the first invoice where place of supply Maharashtra, and for whatever portion of railway line is falling in MP, I'll bifurcate the value and take the place of supply as MP. Now what they are saying, how will you apportion this in the absence of a contract? So if there is no proper contract, how will you apportion? Because here they are saying proportion the value of the service, and this has to be done as per the contract. So if the contract is specifying like for how much kilometer the lines are to be laid and how much is in Maharashtra, how much is in MP, you can do it. But let us say this houseboat, there is nothing given in the contract as to how many days it would be in this water and how many days it would be in that water. And that depends purely upon the cruise or houseboat's wish that how much time they will be spending in a particular state's waters. In such a case where there is nothing specified or pre-agreed, then what to do? Then they are saying in the absence of contract between supplier recipient, the proportionate value of service supplied in different union territories, that is where the immovable property, etc., is located, is computed in accordance with Rule 4 of IGST rules. And then that Rule 4 says all these things. Like where it comes to lodging or accommodation, it says that you see the number of nights stayed. So number of nights stayed is for whatever place, what nights are spent in a particular place, that particular will be the ratio that can be taken. For all other services provided in relation to immovable property, including service by way of accommodation, for organizing a marriage, etc., etc., area of immovable property lying in each state. So like in case of that railway line example, you can take you determine or you calculate the area, how much work is falling in Maharashtra state, how much work is falling in MP state. So like in case of national highways, generally it is a single project, single contract, sorry. And the government, since the work is of central government, they are not giving any breakup in their contract as to how much kilometer is falling in Maharashtra, how much is in MP. They are simply giving you that I want this much kilometer of national highway constructed. In that case, if the contract is not giving you bifurcation between the states, you bifurcate on the basis of the area that is falling in each of the states. So what Rule 4 is saying is very logical. Similarly, services by way of lodging accommodation by a houseboat or a vessel, the time spent by the boat or vessel in each of the states. So here you will take the proportion of hours. So what is the hours? When it started, the ship started from Bombay port. So how much time it is in Mumbai or Maharashtra waters, then how much time it is in Goa waters. That hours ratio you can take. So these are the three criterions given: number of nights of stay in case of hotel type of services, then kilometers in case of road construction, railway line construction, and third, in case of vessels, boats, it is the number of hours. So this is how they have asked you to take the ratio if the contract has not specified anything. I hope this is clear to everyone. Rule or section 12.3 read with rule 4 of IGST rules. Anybody, any questions? Now
No, sir.
okay. Now we go to rule or section 12.4. Again, it deals with some very specific services. What are these specific services? It covers restaurant, it covers catering, it covers personal grooming, it covers fitness, beauty, health. Now, let us take example of this to understand what it is talking about. So, I am a production company from Mumbai, Maharashtra. I am shooting a film in which I have taken Allu Arjun as one of my lead actors. Allu Arjun is registered in Andhra Pradesh. So he's a person registered from Andhra. Here, the service is not between me and Allu Arjun because that is not covered in this particular list. But I'm just giving you a backdrop so that you'll understand what the service is. Now, for my film, I have signed Allu Arjun and I've said Allu Arjun that boss, you have to come to Goa where we will be shooting the different film scenes. So I give him the schedule of Goa that okay, we'll be in Goa from 20th of August till 20th of October. So for 2 months, you have to be in Goa. Now, in this particular movie, he has to take different get-ups for which he decides to hire Javed Habib, who is one of the famous hair stylist. So Allu Arjun contacts Javed Habib. Now, interestingly, Javed Habib has multiple centers from where he is providing his service. Now, this case again becomes then what is the location of supplier? If there are multiple locations, then the answer is simple. You have to decide. So let us say Javed Habib contracts with Allu Arjun and Javed Habib takes his Delhi office as his location. So the contract between Javed Habib, where Javed Habib is entering into the contract with his Delhi location. So the location of supplier, that is Javed Habib, is Delhi. Location of recipient, that is Allu Arjun, is Andhra. And Javed Habib is also asked by Allu Arjun to come to Goa on respective dates whenever Allu Arjun would be getting into that particular get-up where he has hired Javed Habib for the same. Javed Habib signs this contract for rupees 10 lakhs and he comes to Goa on those respective dates to do the hair styling of Allu Arjun. Now, for all these services, as you can see, restaurant, catering, personal grooming, fitness, beauty, and health services, the place of supply is the location where these services are actually performed. So, again, this section is focusing on the physicality of the service. So it is not going by the general rule that we discussed, that it is not taking the location of recipient as the place of supply. Rather, it is going by the physicality where the service is performed. So for these 5 services, you have to see the physical place of performance of these services, and that would be the place of supply. Then coming to another service, that is training and performance appraisal. Now from here, you will find that again they are going back to what we studied in 12.2. That is the general rule. Yogesh, can you please read for me 12.5?
Training and performance appraisal services. Section 12, subsection 5. The place of supply of service in relation to training and performance appraisal depends upon whether the supply is B2B or B2C. In B2B supply, that is where the recipient of service is a registered person, the place of supply is the location of such person. However, in case of B2C supply, that is where the recipient of service is unregistered, the place of supply is the place where the service is actually performed.
Okay. So here they are first giving preference to the location of recipient, but the condition is where the recipient is registered. Then they say we take the location of recipient. However, where the recipient is unregistered, they are saying we take the location where the service is actually performed. I'll give you a simple example of this. Let us say a company which is registered in Mumbai hires me for carrying out training of their purchase team, of their accounts team, of their sales team in the topic of GST. I am also from Mumbai, Maharashtra. The company is, let us say, Pune, Maharashtra, registered in Pune. Now we both are from Maharashtra, but this training they want to carry out in some resort of Kerala, so that for their employees also it will be a type of outing, it will be a type of you can say entertainment, plus they will be attending this training. So they take their employees to this place which is in Kerala, and I am also invited there to carry out 2 days training. I say, okay, fine, for this 2 days training, I'll be charging rupees 5 lakhs. Now, for this particular service of training and performance appraisal, the place of supply depends upon whether this company is registered under GST. Now, first scenario that yes, this is a company registered under GST. Where it is registered? Obviously, it is registered in Pune, Maharashtra. Place of supply would be Pune, Maharashtra. So I will be raising a bill of CGST plus SGST because I am also Mumbai, Maharashtra. Location of supplier and the place of supply as per this provision is also Pune, Maharashtra. So both is same state. Hence the invoice is C plus S, that is intrastate transaction. Second possibility, let us say it is just a startup. They have not yet taken the GST registration. They are waiting for their transaction to to cross the threshold limit, but they want to carry out this training so that their team is well versed with GST law. And the same thing happens. We go to Kerala for this particular training. In this particular case, since now the newly registered company, though it is not newly registered, sorry, newly formed startup company, though it is having its place in Pune, Maharashtra. But since it has not yet taken GST registration, in the eyes of GST law, it is unregistered. In such cases, the place of supply in my example would be Kerala because the place of supply will be the place where the service is actually performed. And in my case, this training is being carried out in Kerala. Hence, the place of supply would be Kerala. I would be raising an IGST invoice and showing place of supply in the invoice as Kerala. So this is what is 12.5. Now comes 12.6. Now 12.6 is what? Service by way of admission. So where for entering into an event, for participating or attending, not participating, for attending an event, there is some fees. In that particular case, what is the place of supply? Yogesh, please read.
Service by way of admission to events, amusement park, other places. The place of supply of following services. Services provided by way of admission to the following types of events. Services provided by
They have named the events, sporting event.
events, sporting, cultural, educational, scientific, artistic, entertainment. Services provided by way of admission to amusement park or any other place. Services ancillary to the above mentioned services is the place where the event is actually held or where the park or such other place is located.
Again, this is going by the physicality. So firstly, what are these services? So let us say sporting. You go to watch an IPL match, or let us say now there will be Pro Kabaddi League, there will be this Pro Hockey League. So all these matches are being held somewhere in any of the stadiums in India, and you are going there as a person who is attending that particular match. So when you want to enter that stadium, that place, there is some entry fee, there is some entry ticket. That is what is covered here. Similarly, second is you are going for some cultural program where some cultural performances are there. So let us say Imam Alniji is performing Kathak in one of the stadiums in Delhi, and you are going to attend that particular event or program. Next is there is some educational or scientific event. So there is some scientific fair, there is some educational exhibition, you are attending that. Third, sorry, fourth, there is some artistic event. So what is artistic event? So like you have the painting exhibitions, you have the different art galleries. So you want to visit there and there is some entry fee. Or there is some entertainment event, like there is some this beauty contest, there is some fashion show, there is some this Kapil Sharma show, or you have all these award functions. So all these are entertainment events. Now for all these, there is an entry fee, there is an entry pass which costs some amount. So you are paying for that amount. Now here understand this. Who is the service provider? Service provider is the event organizer Who is the service recipient? Service recipient are people like you and me who are attending that particular event for watching and enjoying. So that is the first category of service. Second category of service is amusement park. So we have different types of places for amusement. So amusement park are all theme parks. Like in Hyderabad, you have that place. It is entirely that ice. So you get when you go there inside, you get the feeling as if you are in some uh, place where it is covered by ice. So they have artificially created that place. Similarly, you have all these type of theme parks where you go, you enter, and on paying of that entrance fees, you are able to uh, sit on various rides and enjoy various rides. So you have these type of theme parks. So all these places where you are charged an admission fees, where you go and enjoy that particular thing. That is what is amusement park services. And last is again, they are using a generic term, services which are ancillary to above. So for all these services, the place of supply is place where the event is held or place where this park or this place is located. So here again, the place of supply is based on the physical presence of these events or these places. Now this service 12.7 is having connection to the above case. The only small difference is here the service is between the event organizer and the event management. So let us take an example. There is this musical concert of A.R. Rahmanji. It is being held in the Ram Leela Maidan of Delhi. I am the organizer because I am organizing that event. Now, first service which was in the previous section was that you all are coming to that particular place for attending that particular live show of A.R. Rahmanji, where I am the supplier of service, that is event organizer. You all are the attendees, and the service was covered in 12.6, where I have charged you some entry fee. Now in 12.7, for the same event of A.R. Rahmanji, I need someone to take care of the entire organizing of that event. So organizing means I cannot go and do all the organization. So I hire a event management agency. I am from Mumbai, Maharashtra. Event is being held in Delhi, and this event management company is from Pune. Now, in this particular case, what is the place of supply? Here again, they have gone back to the original rule. So, what they are saying, where such service is provided to a registered person. So, here now I am the recipient, the event organizer is the recipient, and the event management agency is the supplier. So, if the recipient is registered, let us say I am registered, where Mumbai, Maharashtra, the place of supply is Mumbai, Maharashtra. This Pune firm will be raising a C plus S invoice on me. However, where it is provided to an unregistered person. So let us say again, I am a new entrant in this business. I have not yet taken a registration. In that case, the place of supply is the place where the event is actually held. So in this case, the Pune firm will be raising invoice on me of IGST. Now, interestingly, we both are from Maharashtra, but since the place of supply, as per section 12.7, is falling outside Maharashtra, it is falling in Delhi. Hence, the place of supply will be the place where the event is held. So, it will be Delhi. So, the Pune firm will be raising invoice on me with place of supply as Delhi. Let us say the same event I am now organizing and holding in Australia. In that case, the place of supply will be Mumbai, Maharashtra. So this is again not an import or export of service. Why? Because both the supplier, that is the event management firm, which is Pune, the recipient, where that is the event organizer, Mumbai, Maharashtra, since both are in India, this is not an international event, not an international transaction. It will never be import or export of service. It will be a domestic transaction only, even though the event is taking place outside India. Now, for this, the event organizing service which I am taking from this Pune firm, the place of supply will be Mumbai, Maharashtra. So even though the event is being held in Sydney, Australia, the event organizing firm will raise on me a C plus S invoice because we both are from Maharashtra and it will be a domestic transactions. Yogesh, please read this further. Yogesh,
Sorry, it
yeah.
was muted, sir. The event can be cultural, artistic, sporting, scientific, educational, or entertainment event. It can also be conference, fair, exhibition, celebration, or other similar event. Place of supply of service ancillary to organization of such type of events or assigning of sponsorship to such events is also determining under subsection 7 of section 12. That is in the manner described above. The provision can be summarized as under.
Okay. So what is also interesting to note is that this section 12.7, now you understand that 12.6 was also event related service, 12.7 is also event related, but there is one difference. 12.6, which is dealing with admission to event, covered only this cultural, artistic, sporting, scientific, and entertainment. However, this service 12.7, which is dealing with organization, besides this event, is also covering activities like a conference, like how we have our conferences, CA conferences, student conferences. So even organizing that conference, organizing any type of a trade fair, or organizing any type of exhibitions or celebrations. So all these different events are also covered in 12.7. They are not covered in 12.6. Plus 12.7 also covers the sponsorship services for such events. So whenever you have events, you many times have sponsors. So the sponsorship services are also covered over here. And here, the place of supply is dependent upon whether my recipient is registered. If yes, the recipient's location here, where the event is happening, where the exhibition is happening, is of not importance. The place of supply will always be of the recipient. But if the recipient is unregistered, it will be the place where the event is held. And if the event is held outside, it will again be the location of recipient. Now, same point, what if the event is held in more than one state? So the same answer. So let us say I have contracted that there will be event of AR Rahman in 5 states. And for that, I have decided a lump sum fee for this event management firm of rupees 50 lakhs. In such cases, again, we have to proportionate this as per the terms of contract. And the second part is if the terms or contract are silent, then what? Then they say in accordance with Rule 5. So for immovable property, we had Rule 4, where the terms of contract were silent. For event, it is Rule 5, right? It is Rule 5 given. So it is saying by application of generally accepted accounting principles. So there is nothing specific given in Rule 5 for this. They are saying it will be on the basis of the generally accepted accounting principles. Now, in such cases, what we can do is simply, if all the events are of same magnitude, we can simply divide the total fees of 50 lakhs by 5. That is the number of events. However, if the events are of different magnitude, then we will have to determine some other basis which is generally accepted. So here, nothing has been specifically given for this, that what would be the general basis for such proportion. So generally people do it as they divide it by the number of events if nothing is specified in the contract. Then comes this very important service, that is of goods transport. Yes. Let us do one thing. Let us have a break of 10 minutes. And after the break, we'll come back to this. In this, we have to determine many things, not only place of supply. We'll have some more detailed discussion on this. So before that, let us have a 10 minutes break. So we break now and we rejoin at 8:40. Fine. We all know the service. We discussed about the exemption in brief and the RCM FCM provision in detail in our previous chapter. Now, here we have to understand the place of supply of goods transport service. We'll first see the place of supply, then we'll have discussion on some very important and critical aspects about this particular service. Right? Yogesh, please read.
Transportation of goods, including mail or courier. Section 12, subsection 8. The place of supply of services by way of transportation of goods, including by mail or courier, etc., provided to a registered person is the location of such person. However, where such services are provided to an unregistered person, the place of supply is the location at which such goods are handed over to the transportation.
Read
Where the
this.
goods where the goods are being transported outside India, that is, where the destination of goods transported is outside India, and the supplier of service by way of transportation of goods and its recipients are located in India, place of supply will be determined as per above provisions only.
Firstly, why this specific note is given? Because there was an interim period of around 2.5 years where there was a special proviso introduced in this section, and that proviso dealt with this particular scenario that, let us say, I am a GTA and you have hired me to dispatch your goods from your factory, which is in West Bengal, to Nepal, that is, to a place outside India. For that particular goods transport service, the proviso said the place of supply will be the place where the goods have to be delivered. So it was Nepal outside India. However, this proviso created a problem. So actually, originally it was introduced with a different mindset. Somehow the lawmakers thought that this will give relief to the GTA service provider as it will become export of service, but they forgot that simply by making the place of supplies outside India does not make a service export. Other requirements are also to be fulfilled, and the first requirement itself is not fulfilled, that the recipient should be a person outside India, because here the recipient is a person from India only. Hence, that provision, even though the proviso was brought with that thought process, but later on they themselves realized that it is not possible. Hence, that proviso was withdrawn. So automatically for this transaction also, that is where the destination of delivery is outside India. For such transactions also, the place of supply is as per the original provision. This is what has now been cleared here. Now, what is the original provision? Again, it is based on our generic rule that where the recipient is a registered person, the place of supply would be the location of the registered person. So that is simple. And second, where the recipient is an unregistered person, the place of supply would be the location at which such goods are handed over for their transportation. Now, let us first understand this. Now, let us take a practical example to understand this. So, I am the GTA. I am having again multiple offices in India because my nature of business requires me to be present in multiple places in India. But let us say again, since now we studied in the previous class the definition of location of supply recipient, and where there are multiple locations, I have to decide. So I take my Mumbai address as the location. So location of supplier is Mumbai, done. Now let us say Yogesh is from Chennai. He hires me for transporting his goods. Now from where to where he wants to transport his goods? His goods are lying at the Bombay airport because they have been imported by him. Now they are at the Bombay airport, and he wants me to dispatch or transport these goods from Mumbai airport to his location in Chennai. Now, in this particular case, supplier, that is GTA, having multiple locations, has contracted with Mr. Yogesh, who is my recipient, who is getting his goods transported, I have multiple locations, but I have taken my Mumbai location as the location of supplier. So location of supplier Priest, Mumbai, Maharashtra. Location of recipient is simple, it is Chennai, Tamil Nadu. And the goods are moving from the Mumbai port to Chennai. In this case, what will be the place of supply? So location of supplier Priest. What is place of supply? First possibility, Yogesh is a registered person. If Yogesh is a registered person, the place of supply would be Chennai. So this transaction would become an IGST transaction. Either I will charge GST under forward charge if I have taken that option. If I have not taken option, Yogesh will pay GST on this transport service under RCM mechanism, and the place of supply will be his Chennai place itself as per the original provision, and he will be eligible to take ITC also. Let us say second possibility, Yogesh is an unregistered person. Now in this case, interestingly, what this phrase means, because this is the place of supply. This phrase means it is the starting point of transport of goods. See, read the phrase. What it says, the entire sentence, it says location at which such goods are handed over for their transportation. For transportation, where the goods are handed over. So it is the starting point of transport. So in my example, in this second part of the provision, the place of supply would be Mumbai, Maharashtra, and I will be raising a C plus S invoice. Right? Now, in this case, there is one more interesting point to be understood. So in my first example, Yogesh was getting his goods transported for himself. That is, there were no two parties. Now let us say second example where Mr. Pitambar has some business with Mr. Sanjay. Let us say Mr. Pitambar is from Pune and Mr. Sanjay is from Delhi. Now, Pitambar wants to send the goods to Sanjay. So the goods transportation has to happen from Pune to Delhi. Now again, I as a GTA is contacted. I have multiple locations, and let us say I take my Indore location to be the location of supplier. So I'm raising the invoice from Indore location. Location of supplier is Priest. Now comes place of supply. Now what is the interesting point in this? When place of supply has to be determined, the provision which we just saw requires us to determine the status of the recipient. That is, whether the recipient is registered or whether the recipient is unregistered. Now, if the recipient is registered, the place of supply is registered recipient's location. If the recipient is unregistered, the place of supply is starting point of transport. But now, the interesting question is, who is the recipient? Why? Because there are two parties. The goods will be transported between Mr. Pitambar of Pune to Mr. Sanjay of Delhi. Now here comes the most important point, that to apply this provision, we have to determine or we have to find out the status of the recipient. The question is, what is the status of the recipient? For that, we have to first determine who is the recipient. So can anybody tell me in this transaction who is the recipient?
Who
Students,
will who will hide the GT and pay the GTA service will be the recipient.
perfect.
If,
So who it will be?
if Sanjay pays for the GTA service, then Sanjay will be will be the recipient. If
Hmm,
Pitambar from Pune, if he is paying for the GTA services, then he will be the recipient.
perfect. So depending upon who is the person liable to pay, because in GST, the definition of recipient is given and it says Recipient is the person who is liable to pay. Now, as rightly pointed out, if as per the contract, Mr. Sanjay is the person liable to pay to the transporter, that is important, right? So if Sanjay is liable to pay to the transporter, then Sanjay becomes the recipient. And we will see the status of Sanjay, whether Sanjay is registered, unregistered, and accordingly determine the place of supply. However, if it is Mr. Pitambar who is the person liable to pay, in that case, Mr. Pitambar, that is the person liable to pay, would become recipient. And in such cases, we will see the status of Mr. Pitambar, that whether Mr. Pitambar is registered, unregistered. If Mr. Pitambar is registered, we will take his location. If he is not registered, then the starting point of transport will be the place of supply. So whenever it is GTA, you have to be very clear with this particular part of the provision. I hope this is clear to everyone.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I have a query, sir.
Please ask me.
Uh, Sir, under RCM, suppose if Sanjay is liable to pay, so he will be the recipient, right? Okay,
Hmm.
and if he is a registered person also,
Hmm.
okay. So under RCM, so he will be paying under RCM in IGST, right, sir? Because GTA is supply is from Indore.
Hmm.
Am I right?
Right. Correct.
Sir, how Sanjay will know that suppose GTA वाले का एक ऑफिस इंडोर में भी है और एक दिल्ली में भी है.
ये तो मैंने अभी स्टार्टिंग में बोला ना, जीटीए का तो हर जगह पे रहेगा ना ऑफिस. तो
हाँ.
मैंने ये इनफैक्ट स्टार्टिंग हमने यहीं से किया कि यू हैव टू डिटरमाइन दी location of supplier first, and how that is determined, as I said, it will be determined because I will be giving my invoice. When I'm giving my invoice, on my invoice I'll show some address. That address will be the location of supplier, and it is what I have to decide. So I have decided to take my Indore address, and how you will come to know, as you rightly said, on the basis of my invoice. Because in invoice I will be writing my address, and I'll be rating one of the address. Correct, na?
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Oh,
Yes. Is this clear?
yes, sir.
Now, like we just discussed goods transport, let us discuss passenger transport. Now, for passenger transport, what will be the place of supply? It is similar to what we studied for goods transport. So what we studied for goods transport is what is also given for passenger transport. Now let us say, again, take an example. Let us say I am traveling from Delhi to Vishakhapatnam by flight. Again, who is the supplier? The supplier is the airlines. Again, having multiple locations. But let us say the airlines is raising invoice from its, what you say, parent location, which is Bangalore. So supplier is airlines raising invoice from its head office, which is Bangalore. So this is freezed. Location of supplier freezed. Right? Now, I am traveling from Delhi to Vishakhapatnam, but I am from Bombay. But right now I was in Delhi. I am taking a flight for going to Vishakhapatnam. What will be the place of supply of this transaction? Again, what it says, you have to see whether the recipient is registered or unregistered. If I am registered, my location is Mumbai, Maharashtra. I am traveling Delhi to Vishakhapatnam, and the location of supplier is Bangalore. See, remember, understand this. Now, in this particular case, what does the provision says? What will be the place of supply? The place of supply. If I am a registered person, will be Mumbai, Maharashtra. That is location of my business. That is location of recipient. But if I am unregistered, then the place of supply would be Delhi. That is the place from where the passenger embarks. Again, the same rule. That is a place from where the journey starts. I hope this is clear. So the first part of this is copy paste or similar to what you studied for GTA, place of supply. So if recipient unregistered, then the place of supply would be the location of the embarking of the passenger. So that would be Delhi in my example, right? Now in this, they have some more thing. So what it says, issue of right to passage for future use and point of boarding not known at the time of issue of right to passage. Now this is interesting. So what is this? Issue of right to passage for future use, but the point of boarding is not known at the time of issue of right to passage. Now, what is this right to passage and what is this future use? So many times there are some corporate plans whereby a company books 10 flights, let us say. So they have booked 10 flights, and for these 10 flights, they have not given any location from where to where. But they have said that, okay, boss, I will be taking your 10 flights in this year, and maybe the 10 flights they are going to take will happen anytime in the next 6 months. So they have not mentioned the, what do you say, from where to where the flights would be taken. But nowadays we have such type of business models where you can book your future travel today, maybe by not specifying, and the the transport company is also interested in having such prefixed bookings. So they are allowing you this particular facility, which is called as right to passage. So the airline company is giving you this right that you can use their passage, you can use their flight, and they have given you this for next 1 year. Now, in this case, if the starting point of the flight is not known, then they are saying what will be the place of supply. First, if the address of the unregistered person is available in the records of the supplier, the location of such unregistered person, in other cases, location of the supplier. So, where it is not known where to where you are going to travel, they are saying no problem. If the address of the unregistered person is available, see, they're not talking about registered person, because for registered person, our answer is already fixed. What is the answer? For registered person, the place of supply will be location of registered person. Now here the point is of unregistered person. So for unregistered person, if his address is available on record, the place of supply will be recipient's address. If not, then you go back to again our general rule, it will be location of supply. One more thing which is very important, which is clarified over here, is what if I am booking a return journey also? So let us say I said I'm going from Delhi to Visakhapatnam, and from there I'm coming back to Delhi. In such case, firstly, if I'm registered, nothing is mentioned. Why? Because for registered, the answer is freeze. It is my location. So it will be Mumbai, Maharashtra always for both flights. Delhi to Visakhapatnam, Visakhapatnam to Delhi. But where I am not registered, in that case, we saw the rule was it is the place from where I'm embarking. Now I'm embarking first flight from Delhi to Visakhapatnam. So location is Delhi. What about my return flight? They are saying it should be treated as a separate journey, even though I have booked both the tickets at the same time. So I have booked both the tickets same time, but the return journey is a separate journey. So it means there will be two place of supplies. First, for outward journey, it is Delhi. For return journey, it is Visakhapatnam. That is what is the point. Now, what is this? This is services supplied on board a conveyance. Now, what is on board? We again had discussed this in section 10, where I am in flight. Same example, I am taking the flight from Jammu to Kanyakumari. The flight is going to have a halt at Ahmedabad, but this flight originally started from Kolkata. From Kolkata, it had come to Jammu. I took the flight from Jammu. I have to go to Kanyakumari. the flight is going to have a halt at Ahmedabad. Now, in this particular example, when we discussed this in the previous class, it was from the perspective of supply of goods on board. That is where I gave you example that I'm buying some packaged item like the packaged almond nut case or some packaged juice. In such case, the place of supply, if you remember under section 10(1)(e), was the place where the goods are boarded on the plane. But now we are talking about supply of services. Now, supply of services, best example is that when any food item is served, like instead of giving me packaged food, they are serving me hot food, they are preparing the food and serving me, or they are serving me hot beverages, or they are serving me juice, but that juice is served in glass. So that becomes supply of service. In such case, what is very interesting is the answer is very different from what you studied in case of goods supplied on board. Here, the place of supply is location of the first scheduled point of departure of that conveyance for the journey. So, for supply of service, in my case, the place of supply would be Jammu, which is the first scheduled point of this journey. So, irrespective of where they have onboarded that food items, since this is now supply of service, now the place of onboarding of the food item is immaterial. The place of supply would be the first scheduled point, which in my case is Jammu. So for the journey which I'm undertaking, the place of supply will be Jammu. Is this clear? Anybody, any questions with this?
सर 12 10 का यही मतलब है ना कि जहां हम लोग बोर्डिंग करते हैं
हाँ
वहां
हाँ,
से चालू होगा, राइट?
करेक्ट,
राइट सर,
यस.
ठीक है, ओके।
इस केस में कोलकाता नहीं होगी, इट इज द फर्स्ट शेड्यूल पॉइंट ऑफ डिपार्चर, क्योंकि फ्लाइट तो कोलकाता से चली थी।
नहीं, वही मैं बता रहा हूँ. सी, फ्लाइट्स दिन भर चलते रहेंगी यहाँ से वहां. इसीलिए जब यहाँ पे बोला ना फर्स्ट शेड्यूल पॉइंट ऑफ डिपार्चर फॉर द जर्नी, दिस पार्ट इज इंपॉर्टेंट. नाउ सी, आप जब भी फ्लाइट्स के शेड्यूल देखते हैं, फ्लाइट्स जैसे मैंने कहा कि ओरिजिनली शुरू हुई थी कोलकाता से जम्मू, पर अगर वहां पे वो फ्लाइट खत्म हो गई मतलब आप जो फ्लाइट के नंबर्स आते हैं ना, AI कुछ तो नंबर, ये जो नंबर आता है ये जर्नी वाइज होता है. अब वो फ्लाइट की पहली जर्नी थी कोलकाता टू जम्मू, खत्म. दूसरी फ्लाइट की जर्नी है जम्मू टू ये अपना
कन्याकुमारी।
कन्याकुमारी, but with a halt. Now see what is the difference between a halt and ending of a flight. जहां पे फ्लाइट ने ही अपना रूट दिया है कि भाई आई एम गोइंग फ्रॉम जम्मू टू कन्याकुमारी, बट क्योंकि ये बहुत लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस है तो मैं बीच में मैं हॉल्ट लूंगा, और हॉल्ट लूंगा तो ऑब्वियसली वहां के कुछ पैसेंजर्स चढ़ेंगे उतरेंगे. दैट इज द जर्नी. बट जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल अभी कन्याकुमारी के आगे भी तो फ्लाइट वापस दिन में कहीं जाएगी ना, या वो कंटिन्यूस बेसिस पे उड़ती रहेगी. नाउ इन दिस पर्टिकुलर केस हम ये नहीं बोल सकते कि फ्लाइट जहां जहां पे भी उड़ के जाएगी सबके लिए फर्स्ट शेड्यूल पॉइंट कोलकाता ही रहेगा. नहीं, what is important is this word for the journey. What is this for the journey? तो जब आप कोई भी फ्लाइट बुक करते हो, that same plane is traveling to different locations, बट आपको उस प्लेन का जो नंबर आता है वो एक्चुअल में उसका फ्लाइट नंबर होता है, जो आपके टिकट्स में भी आता है. भाई आई एम गोइंग बाय एयर इंडिया, सो इट विल राइट AI365, कौन सी, कोलकाता से लेके जम्मू. अब वही प्लेन जब जम्मू से आगे जाएगा, सो इट विल बी AI366 एग्जाम्पल. Now that plane when it is halting at Ahmedabad, the plane number does not change. Why? Because for that particular plane the journey is Jammu to niche south, so Kanyakumari. So the point is you have to understand this point, that first point of departure does not means the very first starting point. वैसे तो फिर सारे जितने भी दिन भर में फ्लाइट्स होंगे सबका आप प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई यही लोगे कोलकाता, ऐसा नहीं है. यू हैव टू सी द फर्स्ट शेड्यूल पॉइंट ऑफ डिपार्चर फॉर द जर्नी. and for the journey means वो flight का जो journey है वो कहाँ से कहाँ तक है, right? So that is what is the point. So it
Okay.
will be in my example Jammu. Yes, and somebody was saying something. Yes, should we proceed? Now, the service of telecom. Now, what is telecom? Now, telecom has multiple services. So, first is the phone line which we were using, the fixed phone lines, जो आजकल सिर्फ companies में दिखती है. Then, second is our mobile phone. Third is our internet. Fourth is our dish that we use at home. So, all these comes in your telecom services, right? Let us see what is the place of supply for each of these services separately. Yogesh, can you please read?
Telecommunication services, Section 12, subsection 11. Telecommunication services include the services of telephone, data transfer, internet, broadcasting, cable, D2H services, etc. Section 12, subsection 11 classifies the telecommunication services into three categories for the purpose of determining the place of supply as under. Services provided using a fixed telecommunication line, leased circuits, internet leased circuits, cable or dish antenna, postpaid mobile connection and postpaid internet services, prepaid mobile connection and prepaid internet and DTH services.
Now, this will be the place of supply for each of these services. Read.
Nature of supply, fixed telecommunication line, leased circuits, internet leased circuit, cable or dish antenna. Place of supply will be location where the telecommunication line, leased circuit or cable connection or dish antenna is installed for receipt of services.
So
Recipient,
in simple words, wherever there is any fixed connection, either for your telephone or for the internet or for cable where we install that cable dish antenna. So where there is some physical uh, placement of any of the equipments for providing that particular telecom services, the place of supply is the physical location of that equipment. So it may be the dish antenna, it may be the cable line, or it may be that particular dish. So wherever this particular physical location of the equipment is, that will be the place of supply. Correct? Now, further, what if the connection is a mobile connection? Now, for mobile connection, it is going to be important because now for this mobile connection, you do not have any fixed equipment installed. So, what will be the place of supply? Please read.
postpaid mobile connection and internet services, location of billing address of the recipient of service in the records of supplier of services, location of the supplier of services if the address is not available.
Simple. So where it is a mobile service. Now in mobile, there are two connections, postpaid, prepaid. For postpaid, they are saying location of billing address. If that is available on record, it is again the recipient who is the place of supply. And in case if the billing address is not available, then it is the supplier which is the place of supply. Now, practically, I believe the second part will not be applicable because whenever it is a postpaid connection, you will have to raise the invoice after the end of the period. And when you are raising the invoice after the end of the period, the place of supply will only be as per the first point because you will always be having the billing address, and in such a case, the place of supply will always be the billing address only. Though the law has provided that in case the billing address is not available, it will be the supply location itself. Next, prepaid.
Prepaid mobile connection, internet service and DTH services, recharge coupon, vouchers, netpack, etc. Services provided through a selling agent, reseller, distributor of subscriber identified model card or recharge voucher. Address of the selling agent, reseller, distributor at the time of supply.
Now see what this is. So the point is wherever you are having the prepaid card. Now in case of prepaid card, which may be either for mobile or it may be for internet or even for your DTH. Now Nowadays, this is again not there. So this provision was made originally. So earlier, if you remember, for mobile phones, we used to go to some shop. You have a prepaid mobile phone, you are going to a shop, you are paying rupees 100, and the shopkeeper was giving you the talk time of 100. Or he used to give you a scratch card. You will scratch the card, whatever is the digits given there, you will type in your mobile, and you will get that, particular what you say.
Talk time.
One second. Yes. Now, again, maybe this would be still there in smaller cities, but at least in all the places where I am seeing, now I don't find any such shop where you go and get the recharge done. But if you are getting a recharge done from a shop, then the address of the shop is the place of supply. So, in case of prepaid connections, if you are getting the recharge done from a shop, the shop address is the place of supply. Next.
Services provided by any person to final subscriber. Location where such prepayment is received or such voucher are sold.
Same thing for like above. So from where the voucher is getting sold, that is the shop is the place of supply. Now these are all both all these cases, all these and this one is where you are buying that prepaid voucher from some shop, or you are getting the talk time from that shop. But where there is no physical place, like as on today, that even for prepaid services, the payment is made online through internet banking or any online mode. Then now the location of recipient of the service as per the records of the supplier is the place of supply. So this is, I believe, is more relevant today. So for prepaid services also, nowadays we do all the what you say, the payment etc online. So we are not going to any shop to buy any prepaid voucher or to get the talk time filled in. The place of supply is the location of the recipient. Then they have given a residuary point in case any of the above is not applicable. I don't believe presently anything will be covered in this, but they have given a residuary point. In the residuary point, that is in other cases, they have given again the generic rule. Please read this other cases.
Other cases, the address of the recipient as per the records of the supplier of services, location of the supplier of services if address is not available.
So it is same your generic rule, what we had discussed. Yes. Now again, what is the scenario? Scenario is where leased circuit is installed in more than one state. So we come back to the first point of this, that where any cable line has been installed, but let us say the cable line is running between two states. Now this happens when you have taken a physical broadband connection for which a cable line has to be laid, and you have taken connection between your two different departments. One is in this state and the other is in the other state. Now this is very much possible in places like Delhi, where Delhi Noida or Delhi Haryana is very closely connected, and one of your units is in Delhi and one of the units is in Noida. So you have laid a line between these two units to connect them, and this physical leased circuit is passing, the cable is passing between these two locations. One is in one state, one is in another state. Now again, what they are saying, the place of supply is the location of this leased circuit as we discussed above. But if it is situated in more than one state, then what will be the case? The answer is same what we studied earlier. The value has to be determined or proportionated as per the terms of the contract. And where the terms of contract are not clear about how to apportion it, then you have to apportion it as per Rule 6 of IGST rules in proportion of number of points lying in each of the state or union territory. So I have put this leasehold line, the cable, and there are 10 units which are connected in Noida, and there are 15 units which are connected in Delhi. So both these have different units. So number of PCs which are connected, number of televisions which are connected, that is the number of units. So if I have 10 units in Noida and 15 in Delhi, then the total value, whichever whatever is charged, has to be proportionated between the number of units or the points that is there in each of the states. Now, number of points in a circuit is determined as follow. So this number of units or point, how it will be determined in case of circuits between 2 points or places. The starting point or the place of circuit and the end point or the place of circuit with n variably constitute 2 points. Any intermediary point or place in the circuit will also constitute a point provided that the benefit of the least circuit is also available at that point. So let us say I have one point in my Delhi and another point in Noida. And let us say while passing, there is some intermediate point again at the border of Delhi. Then if there is some beneficiary at this intermediate point, it will be considered as the third point. Otherwise, it will be only considered as 2 points, one Delhi, one Noida. So these are some practical examples given where you will be applying this rule 6 of IGST rules. Then we come to another service, that is financial and stockbroking services. So we take services of these stockbrokers nowadays. Intraday trading and all these tradings have become very common, and we are obviously connected through some brokers because it is not allowed directly that we cannot trade directly on the BSE NSE. So we have to do the trade through some of these stockbrokers. Now whatever commission they are charging, the place of supply of that service is given in 1212, and it is again same like your general rule. Please read.
Financial and stockbroking services, Section 12, Subsection 12. The place of supply of banking and other financial services, including stockbroking services to any person, is the location of the recipient of service in the records of the supplier of services. However, if the location of the recipient of service is not available in the records of the supplier, the place of supply is the location of the supplier of the services.
Perfect. So it is same like our generic rule in section 12 subsection 2. Then come insurance services. Again, it is more or less following our generic rule. Please read.
Insurance services, Section 12, Subsection 13. The place of supply of insurance service is the location of the recipient when provided to a registered recipient. If such services are provided to a person other than registered person, the place of supply is the location of the recipient of service in the records of the supplier of services.
And if let us say there is no address in the records of the supplier, then by default it will be the supplier's location itself. So same point is given, right? Now, we come to advertisement services to government. Let us first understand what basically this is being what basically is being covered here. So we see that government places different hoardings for promoting any of the government schemes or for publicizing any of the government projects. So you find hoardings. Many times you find things painted or drawn on the walls. And again, it is relating to some government scheme like relating to promotion of Sarva Saksharta Abhiyan, relating to promotion of cleanliness, you'll find that different walls are being painted. Now, this is the advertisement services to government. So it is not services where government is giving something to us. It is our services to government. Now, what is this service? So government would have hired these hoardings. Government would have hired these walls where they are trying to advertise some of their schemes. Now, this type of service is more of like using that immobile property, which is the hoarding, or which is that particular wall on which all these things are painted. So, what will be the place of supply? The answer is simple. The place of supply will be each of the states where the advertisement is being broadcasted, run, played, disseminated. Now, for broadcasting, what is the example? So, let us say government is now using the electronic media to broadcast or to promote these schemes and inform people about the creating awareness about health, cleanliness, etc., etc. So for these things, the government is using the electronic media. Now I am some channel on which the government will be running these ads or running these their promotional schemes, advertisements. So what will be the place of supply? So the answer is simple: where this particular advertisement is being displayed. So let us say that hoarding place, or now in case of electronic media, where it is being broadcasted. So where my channel is being displayed. So if my channel is being displayed in entire of Maharashtra and entire of Bengal, so these two states. If it is displayed in 7 states, so it will be 7 states, because the all channels do not are not broadcasted in every state. So depending upon where my channel is being broadcasted, that is the place where the government's ad is being broadcasted. So that will be the place. Now the question will come: I have charged a lump sum fee, and my channel, my news channel, or the channel on which this particular ad of government is being run, is shown in 10 different states. Now, again, the same question will come: how I will proportionate the value? Again, the same answer. First, it will be done as per the terms of the contract. Next, if the terms of the contract are not there, again, you go back to rule 3 of IGST rule. And what was rule 3? If you remember, rule 3 was relating to immobile property. So the same rule applies over here. What it says: what are the type of advertisements? Either it is in newspapers and publications. Then amount payable for publishing an advertisement in all the editions of a newspaper or publication which are published in each state. So what will be the ratio? The ratio, you can say, is the number of copies printed. Second, advertisement through printed material like pamphlet, leaflet, diaries, calendars, t-shirts, etc. Amount payable for the distribution of a specific number of such material in each state. So same, if I have got multiple handouts printed, or if I have got some t-shirts printed, then how many t-shirts I am giving to Maharashtra, where the volunteers will be wearing the t-shirts and distributing the pamphlet, how much I'm giving to Karnataka, how much I'm giving to MP, that will be the ratio. Third, advertisement in hoarding other than those on trains. So this is simple: amount payable for the hoarding located in each of the states. So number of hoardings will be the ratio. What if the advertisement is on trains? Now trains are moving between different states, and let us say on one train you have put the advertisement and the train is running from north to south. Then amount attributable to each state is calculated in the ratio of the length of the railway track in each of the state. So if the train is running right starting from Jammu to Kanyakumari, and you have displayed your advertisement on the train, like nowadays we see that outside the train many times is there. In fact, sometimes even inside the train coaches there is some advertisement, but majorly this is talking about the outside the train. So if the train is running from Jammu to Kanyakumari, you have to measure the railway track kilometers falling in each state and divide the total cost by the kilometers of each state. So each state will have some share in that particular uh, value. Then advertisement on the back of utility bills of oils and gas companies. So nowadays you see different ads are printed on the bills that you are getting. So like we get the electricity bill. So in the electricity bills, you have some advertisement printed. Here they are saying at the back of the oil and gas company bills. So if you go to a petrol pump and you get some oil filled in and you take a bill, on the back side of the bill, there is some advertisement printed. Then amount payable to each state or territory for the advertisement on bills pertaining to customers having billing address in each of the states. So this is interesting. So depending upon, because now see these bills would be sent to different customers on their addresses. Like as I said, electricity bill comes on your address. So number of customers in Maharashtra, number of customers in Karnataka, number of customers in Gujarat. So in whichever states bills I'm getting the advertisement printed, you have to divide it in the number of ratio of the number of customers or consumers of that particular electricity, gas, etc. Then similarly, advertisements are also printed on the face of or on the backside of the railway tickets. Amount attributable to each state will be calculated in the ratio of number of railway stations. So here they are not taking the number of passengers as the base, but here they are taking the ratio of number of railway stations, right? Next, advertisement is done on radio. So whenever you put on the radio, normally in traveling nowadays, people have started switching on the FM radios, and there is some advertisement of government being played on that. Then amount payable to such radio station, which by virtue of its name is part of each of the state. Now, generally, all these radio stations are specific to states. So when you are making payment, you will be making payment to different radio stations. So wherever the radio stations are, that will be the basis. Advertisement on television. Amount attributable to each state is calculated basis the viewership of such channel in each state. Now, how the viewership can be determined, that is also given. Viewership can be ascertained from the channel viewership figures published by the Broadcast Audience Research Council, or figures of for the last week of a given quarter is used for calculating viewership of the next quarter. So why this is done? Because see, you have to pay GST month on month. Now every month's viewership data will come after a period of time. So what they are saying, what you can do is you can take the viewership. Firstly, you have to take the viewership of each channel. How this will be done? You will take the figures of the last week of each quarter. So let us say quarter is April, May, June. So you'll take the June's last week's viewership data, and that you will use for apportioning for the next 3 months, that is for the succeeding quarter. So June month's last week's viewership will become basis for dividing July, August, September's bill. Similarly, September's last week's viewership ratio will be used for dividing the bill which is applicable for next 3 months, that is October, November, December, where the channel viewership figures relate to a region comprising of more than one states. Now, if you are getting this viewership data state-wise, no problem. Now, let us say you are getting the viewership data region-wise, like Southern region or Western region. Now, Western region may have 3 states, Southern region may have 5 states. Now, in such cases, how will you divide? So, where the channel viewership relates to a region comprising of more than one state, the viewership figures for a state is calculated in ratio of the population of that state as per the last census. So you got the viewership data, but not for a state, but for the Western region. And Western region, let us say, has 3 states, Maharashtra, Goa, Gujarat. Then how will you divide it between the states? So the viewership, whatever is the share received by Western region, that will be further divided, taking the population last done of each state. Next, the ratio of viewership figures for each state, so calculated when applied to the amount payable for the service, shall represent the portion of the value attributable to the dissemination of that state. So this is how you will determine the proportion, which will be basis the viewership, which will be basis the viewership of each state, and on the basis of the last week's figure for a quarter to be used for next quarter. And where the viewership figures are available region wise, it has to be divided into states using the population. So this is how television advertisement bills are apportioned. Next, advertisement in cinema halls. Now this will be easy. Amount payable to a cinema hall or screens in a multiplex which is in a state. So generally you find this generally before the start of the movie or during the intervals, you have different advertisement being run. For this, it is simple because if the advertisement is run in a cinema hall in between the movie show, then it is easy to determine because that cinema hall is situated in a particular city and the city is situated in a particular state. So depending upon in which cinema halls you are running your ads, you can easily allocate that to that particular state. Next, advertisement on internet. Now, advertisements, when you are scrolling some websites like Google, etc., you have advertisements. When you are watching YouTube, on YouTube, you have advertisements. Now, in such cases, there is a very big challenge of the state. So, what it says, it is deemed that such service is provided all over India. So, firstly, when you are putting it on some internet website, or internet, any such what you can say channels or etc. In that particular case, first rule is we are assuming that the service is being provided all over India. Now, if it is being provided all over India, this is the assumption. Then we have to bifurcate it between states. How to do that? Amount attributable to each state union territory shall be calculated basis the internet subscriber in each of such states or territory, which shall be derived as follows. Something similar to the viewership concept. Here for internet, we'll see the internet subscribers. Now, how that will be done? Internet subscribers can be ascertained from the internet subscriber figure published by Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. Then, same point, figures of last quarter of a given financial year will be used for calculating the number of internet subscriber for the next financial year. So, slight deviation as compared to the television advertisement tool. Over there, we were taking the viewership of last month of a quarter to determine it for the next quarter. Here, we are taking the subscribers for the last quarter for a year to be used for the next whole year. Next, where internet subscriber figures are related to a region comprising more than one state, the subscriber figures for each states shall be calculated in the ratio of population. Same rule. And then the ratio of subscriber figures for each state, so calculated when applied to the amount payable for the service, shall represent the portion of the value attributable to that state. So something on similar lines to the advertisement on television, where we were taking the viewership data. Here for advertisement on internet, first assumption, this service is across India. So there is no such, because in case of television, at least we know where the television channels or where the particular shows are being broadcasted. So first states were easily identified from that, and then we were dividing it using the viewership ratio. In case of internet ad, first assumption is it is all over India. Actually, it is all over the world, but we are least bothered for what is going outside India because there is no tax on that. So we are assuming it is all over India and then divided between the states using the data of last quarter of the last financial year. So let us say if I want to apportion for the current financial year 25-26, I will take the subscriber data of January 25 to March 25, which is the last quarter of the previous financial year. That data would be my basis, and that data would be published as per TRAI, and that data would be then, if it is region wise, I'll take the population basis and so on. Next, where advertisements are done through SMS. So nowadays, this is also common. You receive different updates, different types of pitches by different companies, and here in case of government, by government, on your mobile phones through SMS. In such cases, how the value has to be apportioned? Amount attributed to each states calculated on the basis of the telecom subscribers in each state. Obviously, SMS is sent on your mobile phones, so the number of mobile phone connections in that state would be the basis. Further, telecom subscribers in a telecom circles can be ascertained from the figures published by TRAI. Figures for a given quarter will be used for calculating the subscribers for the next quarter. So again, slightly different from internet subscribers. There, the last quarter subscriber, last quarter of a financial year subscriber was used for the next entire financial year. But for telecom subscribers, they are saying we will take one quarter subscriber for next quarter's allocation. So let us say we want to allocate for April, May, June 2025. So we will take the subscriber of Jan, Feb, March 25. Then when we have to allocate for July, August, September 2025, we will take the subscribers for April, May, June 25. So here quarter on quarter, we will keep on changing the telecom subscriber data. Where such figures relate to telecom circles comprising of more than one state, The subscriber figures of the states shall be calculated in the ratio of population, similar to the region concept. Students, I'll request that you all go through each of these examples. For all of the above points that we are discussing, they have crafted a very specific example so that you understand each of these points, what we are discussing conceptually, you'll understand it with a practical example. So here, a proper example is coined for each of the cases, right? So this is end of section 12, which is place of supply for services where location of supplier, location of recipient both were in India. Now we move on to section 13. Again, determining place of supply of service. Here, one of the locations is outside India. So, supplier's location is in India, but recipient's location is outside. Or recipient's location is in India, but supplier's location is outside. So, in such cases, how to determine the place of supply? That is what we are now going to check. Yes. Yogesh, can you please read for me?
Section 13. Place of supply of services where location of supplier or location of recipient is outside India. Subsection 1. The provisions of this section shall apply to determine the place of supply of services where the location of the supplier of services or the location of the recipient of services is outside India.
Fine. So subsection 1 is just creating the base for where this section has to be applied. Now comes again the first rule, which is the generic rule or the residuary rule, which is applicable to those cases which are not specifically covered in the further subsections. Please read subsection 2.
Subsection 2. The place of supply of services, except the services specified in subsection 3 to 13, shall be the location of the recipient of services. Provided that
okay, complete.
Provided that where the location of the recipient of services is not available in the ordinary course of business, the place of supply shall be the location of the supplier of services.
Now, if you compare this with 12.2, 12.2 was also on similar lines, but there is a one important difference which you will find in entire 12 versus 13 provisions. What is the difference? The difference is in section 12, we were first checking whether the recipient is registered or unregistered, and then we were determining the rule. Here in entire section 13, nowhere you will check whether the recipient is registered or unregistered. Nowhere in entire section 13 you will get to read that recipient registered this rule, recipient not registered this rule. And in entire section 12, majorly we found that it was if recipient registered this rule, if recipient not registered this rule. Why? Because section 12 was applicable where both the persons were in India, and section 13 is applicable where one of the persons is in India. Now, if the recipient is outside India, there is no possibility that the recipient would be registered. When we are saying registered means registered under GST. So if the recipient is outside India, how he or she or it can be registered under Indian GST laws? So since this possibility is ruled out in case of your international transactions, hence nowhere in section 13 you will find the reference of if registered then this, if not registered then this. So this is one major difference which you will find in entire 13 because it is very logical and obvious. Now, still here the same logic flows that wherever possible we want the recipient's place to be the place of supply. So that we want to continue. So we are not changing that rule. Here also we want to keep the recipient's location as place of supply. The only difference is that we have removed that criteria of registered and unregistered. Now, subsection 2, which is the residuary rule, says the same thing, that general rule is what will be the place of supply? It is the location of recipient. Exception, if the location of recipient is not available in the ordinary course of business. So let us say same like what we call as cash sales. Here also let us say there is some online transaction, and let us say you have hired me for the purpose of providing you some online consulting service, or nowadays you have so many this online facilities where you can consult a doctor, you can consult any specialist. So now these facilities have started, and in such case, if the location of recipient is not known, so as a professional, I am least bothered. You contact me, you get my connect through some reference. You contact me, I say, okay, I will be charging you $1,000. You transfer that much amount, but I am least bothered about where are you from, what is your location. So, like how you have counter sales in case of goods, here it is counter sales in case of service, where I don't know from where the recipient is, neither I know, neither I have the details on my record. So, in such a case, the place of supply would be then my location only, that is supplier's location only. So, where location of recipient is not known in the ordinary course of business. Now, this phrase is interesting. Earlier we had the phrase it is available on record or not available on record. Now here they are not using this term available on record or not. Why? Because here in case of international transaction, if this supply is outside India, the place of supply is outside India, and it is not taxable, then I will not maintain any record also possible. I only have the entry in my bank that somebody made payment of $1,000. That's it. I have no other record because it was online consulting service. We have nowadays so many services that are happening online. People consult you for getting their horoscope checked. People consult you for some type of emotional counseling. There are so many things happening online where I don't know in the ordinary course of my business where the recipient is from. Many times we need not ask, or the recipient may not speak the truth. And in the ordinary course, this is very important. In the ordinary course of business, means whatever is the nature of my business, this information is not available or it is not authentic. Then you come to the generic rule. What it says, location of supplier is place of supply. Now comes subsection 3, from where we have specific rules. So let us go to the detail part of this. Yes. Now subsection 3 is given the heading of performance-based services. Now here you will find services which are performed either on the goods or the services are performed on some persons. So on some persons like beautification service, grooming service, that is on person. And on goods means like repairing the goods or treating the goods or carrying out some process on the goods. That is the services on the goods. Yes, Yogesh, please read first part of section 13.3.
Services requiring physical presence of goods on which the services are to be performed. Location where the service is actually performed.
So
Exceptions.
one second. So where the service is to be performed, now see the language again is important. The service is such that it requires the physical presence of goods. Means until and unless you send your goods to me, I cannot carry out the service on your goods. So I'll give you a very simple example. So let us say you are in the business of garments. You have manufactured some garments, but you want a special type of jari work to be done on the garment. So you send the garments to me and I do the jari work. Now you are a person from US. I am that particular person from India, and I am performing or doing this jari work on your goods. Similarly, we have different types of thread works which are to be done. So there are different types of artistic work which I do, and for that purpose, you are sending your goods to me in India. Now, in this particular case, when you are sending your goods to me in India, and I am performing some services where I require the goods to be physically present in front of me. That is, without the goods being physically present, I cannot carry out the services on the goods. Then the place of supply will be India, that is location where the service is actually performed. So you send the goods to India, I carried out these activities or processes on it, and I send the goods back to you. In such case, the place of supply would be India. Now, this rule has some exception. Please read.
Sir, I have a query, sir.
Please.
Suppose suppose goods are not sent in India. I have gone to the US. I
Hmm.
have performed their service in the US. वो जरी वर्क है वो मैंने यूएस जाके वहां पे उस गारमेंट पे किया.
Correct.
Then the place of supply will be outside of India, right, sir? Because
Yes.
goods service has been performed there.
Correct. So in such case, the answer is the place where the service is performed. So if I physically go outside to carry out the service, then outside place is the place of supply.
Okay,
Correct.
sir. Yeah. Exceptions. Services supplied in respect of goods that are temporarily imported into India for repair or for any other treatment or process and are exported after such repair treatment process without being put to any other use in India.
Now,
Location of
uh,
location of recipient, location of the supplier if location of recipient is not available.
so what is this point? Please understand. So we are talking about same service, that is where some service, some activity has to be performed on the goods. So the original rule says the place of supply is the location where the service is carried. They would be resent back to you. Now, in such cases, they have changed the rule and they have said the place of supply will not be India. That is not the place where these services are actually performed. Here they are saying the place of supply would be the location of recipient. So it will be the place of supply will be outside. Now let us understand why this exception is there. Again, originally this rule was not there. Later on, they found like the same example of Zari work. When I'm carrying out this Zari work, what I'm doing some type of treatment or process on your goods. Now, in this particular case, if this exception is not there, so you are a person outside India from US, I am a person in India, I am supplying or providing the services to you. In this particular case, if this exception was not there, then my service would not become export. Why? Because for export of service, if you remember, the definition was supplier is in India, satisfied. Recipient outside India, satisfied. Payment I am receiving in foreign currency, satisfied. All conditions are satisfied, but one condition was the place of supply of service should fall outside India. Now, without this exception being in place, which was not there originally, the place of supply of this service was India. So, technically, what was happening, such Indian work, which actually is should be comprising or should be treated as export, was not being treated as export, and unnecessarily, then I ended up paying GST on that. Obviously, I cannot charge and recover from you because you will not pay the GST to me. So effectively, it was becoming my cost. And for that matter, the exports either were becoming costlier or I was getting less revenue. And this was actually impairing or hampering our Indian service exports. And as you all know, that India today, like for example, for diamonds also, the raw diamonds are brought into India for doing this cutting, polishing, etc. That is some treatment or process. Now, all these, because of the original provision, were not getting the benefit of export. When this information came to the knowledge of the council through various representations, the council brought in this amendment by way of an exception. So today, how the position stands? Today, the position is if these goods are brought into India with the intention of carrying out repairs or any such treatment, then the place of supply will be the recipient's location. And then there is a very good possibility that since the recipient is outside India, this service will become export and all the export benefits would flow to me. So that was the purpose of bringing this particular exception. One more exception has been brought in where service supplied in respect of goods where the services are provided from a remote location by electronic means. Now this is interesting. So nowadays you find, I'll give you example of this, that you need to repair your goods. But how you are repairing? You are contacting me. I am the engineer. Now you are sitting in a foreign country, let us say Philippines, and there is some gadget where on which you need to do some service, repairing, or let us say assembling, any type of service. But how you are doing? You are contacting me. I'm the technical person, and using electronic means like internet, like some video call, etc. I am guiding you how to assemble your goods. I am guiding you how you can prepare your goods. Now again, these are different services which are nowadays possible and happening on a very good scale. So for such services which are supplied in respect of goods, so in respect of goods means there is something you are doing on your goods, but that are provided from a remote location. So here the goods are not sent to me. You are sitting in your country, the goods are with you, but through electronic means, I am providing you some services, and the services are relating to your goods. They are in respect of your goods. Then, place of supply is location where goods are situated at the time of supply of service. So it is outside India only because goods are there. You are not sending the goods to me. Had you sent the goods to me, it would have fallen in the above provision. So for such cases also, the place of supply would be the place outside India or the place where the goods are physically. Next, the second part of this section 13.3 is where services are provided to an individual which requires a physical presence. Again, what it will cover? It will cover healthcare service. It will cover personal grooming. It will cover beautification. So I take the same example of the same movie. So there is a producer who had hired Allu Arjun for acting in his movie. The producer is from Mumbai, Maharashtra. That is a production house. Allu Arjun is from Andhra, and the shoot location is Goa. That was in the same context. Let us say in the movie's closing scene, they hire a Hollywood actor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is a bodybuilder. Now, if I'm not wrong, he's also something in the American. I think he's mayor or something, or he was a mayor. So, in the same movie, in the climax scene, the producer is casting Arnold, who is a foreign Hollywood actor. Again, Arnold's also is contacting Javed Habib for doing his beautification. Now, here, Javed Habib is the supplier, Arnold is a recipient. Javed Habib, location India, Arnold, location outside India. So we come to section 13 and we come to 13.3.2, where the service is to be supplied to an individual. So Javed Habib has to perform this treatment on Arnold's, and for this, it requires the physical presence of Arnold. So we fit in 13.3.2. So same beautification or personal grooming service, where in the first case, in the previous section, the Javed Habib was doing it for Allu Arjun. Now he is also doing the same thing for Arnolds. What will be the place of supply? The answer matches with section 12 provisions. It will be the place where the service is actually performed. So it will be Goa. So the same provision, what is there parallelly in section 12, we have the same parallel provision in section 13. Then what if the above services are supplied at more than one location where one of the locations is India? Now this is interesting. In section 12, when we were having such common services, it was what if the services are provided in different states, how to apportion the value in different states. Now here, that point will also come. But before that, there is a possibility, what if these services are provided in such a manner that there are multiple locations and the locations are in different countries. One of the country is India, that is a taxable territory. So example is where this service in providing some service in relation to goods, where the service has to be performed through electronic media. So I am a person sitting in India. Now you are taking this service so that I can explain all your employees how to assemble the goods. And your employees are sitting in different countries, and through some Zoom call, I'm giving them this particular training. Now, in this case, the place of supply, how it will be determined? Because in this case, there are multiple locations and one location, that is, some of your employees are in India also, some are in the US, some are in the Africa, some are in China, and for all of them, I am providing this service. Now, for this case, they are saying the place of supply for all the service will be treated as India. So, where if out of all the locations, if one location is India, that is taxable territory, we will assume that entire service is in India. So this is first uh, clarification or carve out, you can say. And then second is services at one and two supplied in more than one state. Then you have to divide it between each state so that each state can get their share of revenue. How to divide it in each state? That is what we have studied about. There are different rules which makes the provision of how you can divide it in different states. Now, in case of cutting and polishing activity on unpolished diamonds, which are temporarily imported into India and are not put to any use in India, the place of supply would be determined as per the provisions contained in section 13.2. So this is just a clarification. In fact, it is a very old circular, and what it said, it just clarified that when diamonds are coming to India for getting cutting or polishing done, for that particular purposes, the place of supply has to be determined as per 13.2. 13.2 means the generic rule. Now, this particular point was there before the introduction of that exception. However, after the introduction of exception, this circular may not be required because anyways, the exception says that the place of supply will be the location of recipient, that is, they are by default going to the supply. But till the time that exception was not there and the government wanted to provide export benefits to this activity of cutting and polishing of diamonds, they had immediately brought in this circular to at least give relaxation to the services of cutting and polishing of diamonds. Later on, when they received similar representation from different other sectors also, they thought of better adding that exception, because of which now wherever goods are coming into India for repairing or any such treatment, the place of supply would be the location of recipient. So in majority of the cases, it will become export, which is the intention. Fine. So this is what is 13.3, which is performance-based services for goods also and for persons also. Right? Anybody, any questions up to this point, students? Yes, students. Anybody, any questions? No questions? Okay. So we have Swati ma'am. So I will hand over the session to Swati ma'am from here. So thank you, students. We connect again in the next week. I think the next week's class will be on Sunday because Friday is 15th August. And on that, in that session, we'll complete this entire chapter with the remaining provisions. So thank you. Thank you very much. Over to you, Swati ma'am.
Yeah, good morning, sir, and good morning, students.
Good
Today,
morning.
the topic, the place of supply, is very important topic. It is important in two aspects. One, yes, one question direct, an application-based question can be asked from this topic, because as we know, as I have already discussed many times, the substantive provisions of GST law, they carry the highest weightage in the examination. And another aspect of this place of supply is very important. It is already there in the compulsory question which we get in the examination. Because what happens in the compulsory question, we get a list of items of inward supplies and outward supplies. And therein, it is not specified that it is an inter or intra-state supply. So you have to determine the place of supply of each and every item so as to arrive at whether the particular activity or transaction is an interstate or an intrastate. So it has the implication in two aspects, right? So in the compulsory question, you have to have the knowledge of place of supply. Then only you will be able to arrive at the correct answer. So please go through all the provisions which sir has covered in this session after the class is over carefully and very meticulously so that you can ask the doubts in the next session. So thank you, students. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Please go through all the illustrations that we have So I will request that you should go through all the examples that are given in the module. They are very, very important and helpful for preparing for the exams and also understanding the concepts. So thank you all. Have a good weekend. Enjoy with your family and also keep studying. Thank you. Good day. Yes, Ashok ji, session over. Have a good day. Thank you, Ashok ji. Same. Bye bye.